Most of what stresses you out is not yours to control. It's someone else's opinion, someone else's mistake, something rooted in the past, or something imagined in a future that may never arrive. Yet, we carry these burdens as if they were ours to bear. But here's the hard truth. The more time you spend obsessing over the external, what others think, what might go wrong, the more authority you hand over to it, and the less you retain for yourself. Eventually, it's not the noise around you that overwhelms you, it's the storm you allow to build within. The chaos outside is only a trigger. The real damage is done by the chaos inside you that you never take the time to calm. Stoicism begins exactly where your illusion ends, and that illusion is control, not the kind of control that empowers progress, but the kind that drains you. That false sense of control makes you believe you can bend reality to your will if only you worry enough, plan more, or force harder. But here's what no one usually tells you. Peace doesn't come from managing every possible outcome. It comes from recognizing the boundary between what's yours and what never was. It's about seeing clearly what can be changed and finding the courage to release what cannot. That's the birthplace of real strength, not through domination of life, but through the calm, disciplined response to it. This episode isn't about fleeing chaos. It's not about pretending the noise doesn't exist. It's about turning toward it and learning how to stand still when everything else is spinning. It's about strengthening the one place that has always belonged to you, your own mind. Not to overpower the world, but to take rightful ownership of yourself. Let's begin. Your peace begins exactly where control ends. There's something deeply human in our craving to control life. It begins early. Remember when we were children, throwing tantrums just to feel heard. Back then, we believed the world should respond to our feelings, our will. And as we grow older, the form changes, but the desire stays. We try to control how others see us, curate our image, predict outcomes, mold relationships, and even manufacture happiness. We treat peace and success like puzzles we must force into place. But what happens when we grip too tightly? Life starts to resist. The more we demand, the more it slips through our fingers. It's like holding water in a clenched fist, it simply escapes. The ancient Stoics grasped this concept centuries ago. Epictetus, one of the great minds of Stoic thought, once said, "There's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." Let that sink in. It's not just wise, it's a warning. The more we chase after what we can't control, the more we lose touch with the peace that's already available inside us. Peace doesn't begin when life finally matches your expectations. It begins when you stop expecting it to. When the mind no longer insists that everything must unfold a certain way, something shifts. Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. Your pulse rises, jaw tightens, hands grip the steering wheel. You blame other drivers, curse under your breath. But none of that moves the cars. What if instead you chose to breathe? To say, "This is out of my hands." Because while the traffic is not yours to command, your reaction is. That simple pause, that moment of letting go, is where you reclaim what so many people never do: your inner authority. You didn't control the situation, but you controlled your response. That is power, not loud, but lasting. Let's go even deeper. Control is not just about external circumstances, it's also about perception. The Stoics taught that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Someone leaves your message unanswered and your mind rushes in. They must be angry with me. But is that the truth, or just your fear speaking? A plan fails, and instantly your mind whispers, "I'm a failure." But pause for a moment. What if neither of those things is actually true? What if the failure isn't personal, and the stress you feel doesn't come from the event itself, but from the narrative you've attached to it? How many times have we confused outcomes with identity? That's why learning to let go is not a sign of weakness. It's a profound act of discipline. It's the decision to stop letting your peace depend on things that were never built to last in the first place. The weather shifts, relationships change, people leave, markets crash. And life, as always, moves in waves that we can't predict. But through all of that, some things remain: your breath, your thoughts, your values. These are your anchors, the things you can return to when the sea of life grows wild. Because when you've trained your hands to hold the wheel, you no longer need to command the storm. You steer with steadiness, no matter how strong the wind blows. One of the most painful and exhausting patterns we fall into is the belief that if we just try harder, push more, or explain better, we'll finally seize control. If we say it just right, they'll understand. If we give more, they won't walk away. If we worry long enough, we'll prevent disaster before it arrives. But most of that, it's an illusion we've been taught to chase. Because the truth is you can't control how someone else feels. You can't control the future or force the world to respond to your efforts in the way you want. And here's the most liberating truth of all: you don't need to. What you do need is to take full responsibility for what is yours: your attention, your choices, your mindset, your reaction. That's where your true leverage lives. That's your foundation. And when you begin to operate from that internal space, calm, grounded, and aware, something subtle but powerful happens. Life stops feeling like a war you're constantly losing. Instead, it becomes something else. A rhythm, a dance. Some steps are yours to lead with intention. Others you allow yourself to release and move with. And it's in that space between control and surrender that peace often finds its way in. So how do you build this mindset? How do you begin shifting from force to flow? Start small. Begin by simply noticing your tension. When your shoulders rise, when your breath shortens, when your jaw clenches, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now? Is it someone's opinion of you? A specific outcome you're fixated on? A memory you keep reliving? If the answer is yes, then breathe. Loosen your grip. Let it go, not because it's unimportant, but because it isn't yours to carry. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's not the last resort when everything else fails. It's the first and most powerful act of clarity. Your peace doesn't come from bending the world to your expectations. It comes from adjusting your expectations to meet the world as it is. And when you can do that, not just once, but over and over again, day after day, you'll begin to notice something rare. Even when the noise is loud, even when everything feels uncertain, a quiet stillness starts to grow within you. Control is internal, not external. It's tempting to believe that being in control means managing everything around us: people, events, timing, outcomes. But the harder we try to orchestrate what lies outside, the more life reminds us of an undeniable fact: we were never really in charge of any of it. People will change their minds. Perfectly laid plans will unravel. Mistakes will happen despite our best efforts. Yet in the midst of all that unpredictability, one form of control remains untouched: the control we have over ourselves. That is where Stoicism plants its roots. The Stoic doesn't waste energy chasing what he cannot influence. Instead, he hones his awareness, sharpening focus not on the noise of the world, but on the stillness within. Not on chaos, but on clarity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Understand this, and you will discover a different kind of strength, And that is the shift. Control doesn't mean making. It means mastering how you respond. When they don't. When things don't go your way, when people don't meet your expectations, or when the outcome doesn't reflect your effort, that's the moment where real mastery is tested. But here's the truth. Most people have been trained differently. From a young age, we're conditioned to chase results, to fix, to perfect, to avoid error at all costs. That's why we obsess over how others perceive us. That's why we replay old conversations in our heads, hoping we could have said something better. That's why we lose sleep over moments we can't rewind. We confuse control with security. We believe that if we just manage every detail, every word, every outcome, every impression, we'll finally feel okay, finally feel safe. But instead of peace, what we often create is pressure. The more we try to control everything, the more we imprison ourselves in a world of unpredictable variables we can't command. Here's the hard part, the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Internal control isn't loud. It doesn't put itself on display. No one claps for you when you stay calm instead of lashing out. No one notices when you choose silence over spite, or when you let something go that your ego desperately wanted to hold on to. But those quiet, invisible wins, they build something far stronger than applause. They build resilience. They shape the kind of character that doesn't break under pressure. The kind of peace that doesn't require the world to be peaceful. Imagine this. Someone insults you. Your pride ignites. Your emotions rise like a flame catching dry wood. But in that moment, there's a space tiny yet powerful where you can choose. Not power over them, but mastery over you. Will you react out of impulse? Or will you respond with intention? Do you carry their words with you all day, or do you leave them where they fell? That moment is the proving ground of real control. Not about controlling others, but about commanding yourself with strength and clarity. And this kind of mastery goes beyond emotional regulation. It touches your focus, your time, your energy. Where you invest your attention each day slowly carves the path of who you become. If you hand it over to every small irritation, every unfixable problem, every drama that was never yours to begin with, don't be surprised when your power feels drained. Because you're not tired from life itself. You're tired from carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. The Stoic filters life like a skilled craftsman, with awareness and precision. What's mine to act on? What's mine to let go? This mental filter brings with it a quiet, deep-rooted confidence, a kind of freedom that doesn't need to be proven. Because when you stop trying to command the external world, you also release yourself from the exhausting illusion of perfection. You begin to feel lighter, more centered, and more grounded. You become the kind of person who can walk head-on into a storm, and still move with grace. But don't be mistaken, this isn't something that happens overnight. It's not a switch you flip. It's a practice. It takes awareness, consistency, and humility. It means pausing before the reaction takes over. It means asking yourself in hard moments, am I trying to control the uncontrollable? Or am I choosing to lead myself with purpose? Because no, you can't stop the tide. But you can learn how to swim through it with strength, with calm, with direction. And the more you train your mind to look inward, the less power the outside world will have over your inner peace. That's the real test of strength, not how much you can control, but how little you let external chaos disturb your internal clarity. Here's a simple but powerful challenge for the week ahead. Anytime something frustrates you, pause. Don't ask, how do I fix this? Instead, ask, is this inside my control or outside of it? If it's inside your domain, act. Step forward. Take responsibility. But if it's beyond your influence, Let it go. Not out of weakness, but because your strength is too rare, too valuable, to waste on what was never yours. Real control doesn't shout, doesn't seek attention. It moves silently, inwardly, reshaping how you live not by bending the world to your will, but by mastering the only place where you ever truly hold power, yourself. This subtle form of control quietly reclaims your energy from the uncontrollable forces that constantly pull at your focus. Every day, often without even realizing it, we leak precious energy not through physical action, but through where we choose to place our attention. We surrender it to arguments that ended hours or even days ago, to imaginary what-if scenarios that may never come to pass, to people who have long since left our lives, and to outcomes we fear but cannot possibly influence. By the end of the day, you might find yourself wondering, why do I feel so mentally exhausted when I haven't physically moved much? The truth is that exhaustion often isn't about what you did, it's about what you carried in your mind and heart. The Stoics recognize that energy is sacred, not in some vague spiritual sense, but in a practical, everyday way. Your energy is one of your most limited resources. Where you direct it shapes not only your mental state, but also your productivity, your peace of mind, and your ability to think clearly. So the question becomes, how much of that energy are you unknowingly wasting on things that were never yours to carry? Many of us don't realize how deeply entangled we are with what lies beyond our control. We feel responsible for how others feel, for how they interpret our words, for how life unfolds for them. We convince ourselves that this is compassion, duty, or loyalty, but it's not. When you constantly pour your energy into fixing what was never truly yours, you don't just lose time, you lose your sense of inner balance. And over time, that imbalance becomes your normal state, constantly reacting, perpetually anxious, endlessly drained. Reclaiming your energy isn't selfish. On the contrary, it is an act of profound responsibility. When you pull your focus back to what is truly yours, your choices, your discipline, your attention, your emotional responses, you become more powerful, not less. You don't become cold or detached. Rather, you become centered and clear. You begin to discern what is worth your time and what simply isn't. Take a simple example. Someone disrespects you. You can choose to replay the insult over and over in your mind, analyze every word, tell 10 friends about it, letting it consume your thoughts, or you can acknowledge what happened, set a boundary if needed, and move forward. One choice drains your energy, the other restores it. It's not about pretending the event didn't affect you. It's about refusing to let it dominate you, or consider how much energy we waste imagining the future. What if this happens? What if they don't respond? What if I fail? We tell ourselves worrying is preparation, but in truth, worry is merely a mental rehearsal of pain. It steals the clarity of the present moment and replaces it with fear. The Stoic approach offers a different path. Do what you can, prepare with reason, then let go. You cannot outthink uncertainty, but you can choose not to be consumed by it. And this principle extends beyond the personal. It shapes how you interact with the world. The endless news cycle, social media storms, the flood of opinions and events, all outside your control. If you let them, they'll steal your peace, shape your emotions, and dominate your mental space with relentless force. But here's the crucial truth. You have a choice. You can unplug. You can consciously decide what to expose yourself to and what to shut out. You can reclaim your focus, not by turning a blind eye to the world, but by thoughtfully filtering the noise around you. This is what reclaiming your energy looks like in everyday life. Unsubscribing from emotional chaos, choosing your responses with intention, and protecting your inner space. just as carefully as you would guard your home. After all, you don't open your front door to every stranger who passes by, so why would you open your mind to every passing worry or fear? And yes, this requires discipline. It demands honesty with yourself about your habits and patterns. It means making firm decisions. No, I will not overthink that situation again. No, I won't spend my entire day dwelling on what I cannot change. No, I refuse to waste my precious energy on someone who doesn't even value it. This kind of self-control doesn't harden you or make you cold. Instead, it sharpens your clarity, because clarity, after all, is power. And when you finally stop surrendering your energy to what you cannot control, you'll be amazed at how much lighter you feel, how much freer your mind becomes, and how much more you can accomplish by focusing on what truly belongs to you. Let go of the illusions of power over others. One of the most exhausting and soul-draining habits we carry is the false belief that we can control how other people behave. We convince ourselves that if we say the right thing, act just the right way, give enough, or stay calm enough, they'll change. That they'll suddenly treat us with more respect, love us as deeply as we love them, understand our point of view, value us properly, or finally give us the closure we crave. But this is the trap. The false hope that our peace depends on someone else's transformation. The truth is, it doesn't, and it never has. No matter how thoughtful, patient, or generous you are, you do not hold the power to control how others think, feel, or act. And trying to influence or manipulate their behavior, even with the best of intentions, is not genuine connection. It's control disguised in a kinder package. The Stoics taught that living in harmony with nature means accepting people as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. That doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or settling for less than you deserve. Rather, it means you stop forcing others to become what they are not ready or willing to be. Instead, you set boundaries, not ultimatums. You walk away, not as a punishment, but as a necessary act to protect your peace. Because trying to change someone who doesn't want to change is like trying to hold the wind in your hand. It slips away no matter how tightly you grip, leaving you only with frustration and exhaustion. Consider the heavy mental load we carry in relationships where we constantly adjust, explain ourselves, and hope against hope. We tell ourselves, if I just do more, they'll finally see, or maybe if I make them understand, things will change. But that cycle often turns into emotional servitude. Gradually, you abandon your own values, your boundaries, even your sense of self-awe, in an attempt to keep the connection alive. And in doing so, you lose not only your energy, but something far more precious. You lose yourself. True freedom begins the moment you accept this reality. People are who they choose to be, not who you need them to be. This fundamental truth marks the boundary of your responsibility. It ends firmly at your side of the equation. You can offer love freely, with an open heart, but you cannot demand it in return. You can show respect consistently, but you have no control over how someone responds to that respect. You can speak the truth boldly, but you cannot force others to listen or understand. The sooner you let go of this illusion of control, the sooner you begin to reclaim the vast energy you've been unknowingly pouring into the impossible. Letting go doesn't mean shutting down or closing your heart. Rather, it means opening your eyes wide to reality. It means seeing clearly that influence is not the same as power. You may inspire someone, and you may support their growth with kindness and patience. But the moment you try to bend their will to meet your own needs, you've stepped out of love and into fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being unloved, fear of rejection. This fear is what keeps us clinging so desperately. We convince ourselves that control will save us from pain, but ironically, it only creates more pain. It creates tension, resistance, and emotional warfare within ourselves and in our relationships. How often do you find yourself drained from conversations that lead nowhere, or exhausted from trying to please someone whose expectations keep shifting like sand beneath your feet? And all along, quietly waiting to be seen, there lies a simple truth. It is not your job to change anyone else. Your job is to choose how you respond to them. So what does it truly look like to let go of this illusion of control? It looks like no longer chasing apologies you'll never receive. It looks like no longer crafting messages you won't send because you fear the outcome. It looks like no longer molding yourself into a shape that pleases someone else, sacrificing your own authenticity. It looks like walking away from people who benefit from your silence and reclaiming the voice you lost while trying to keep the peace. Because peace is not found in controlling others. It is found in setting yourself free from the desperate need to do. So the Stoic doesn't beg for understanding or demand validation. Instead, he lives with integrity, remaining true to himself and allows the world to respond in whatever way it chooses. And yes, this is a hard path because it requires surrendering your need to be seen or accepted in a certain way. But within that surrender, you gain something far stronger than approval. You gain self-respect. So ask yourself honestly, who are you still trying to change? Whose behavior do you find yourself obsessing over? For whom are you shrinking yourself, hoping that if you're just good enough, they'll finally get it? And now, imagine what would happen if you simply let go, not out of spite, not to prove a point, but because your energy deserves better. Because your peace is infinitely more valuable than someone else's opinion. Because the only thing more exhausting than trying to change others is realizing you never had to accept reality to master it. Most suffering begins not with what is, but with what we refuse to accept. It is not the situation itself that crushes us, but our resistance to it. We wish things were different. We cry out against unfairness. We cling to how things should be, and in doing so, we trap ourselves in an invisible cage, locked in a war with reality, a war that no one ever wins. This is one of the hardest truths that Stoicism offers. Acceptance is not giving up. It is stepping into clarity. It is looking life straight in the eyes and saying, "This is what it is, and now I choose how to meet it." That is not weakness. That's mastery. Because when you stop wishing the rain away, you can finally decide what to do with the storm. But let's be honest, it's uncomfortable to accept things we don't like. It feels passive, even powerless. We fear acceptance means surrender. If I accept that I failed, does that mean I stopped trying? If I accept that they're gone, does that mean it didn't matter? If I accept this pain, does that mean I'm somehow okay with it? The answer is a clear and resounding no. Acceptance isn't resignation or giving up. It's recognition, the crucial first step in reclaiming your power. Because you simply cannot change what you refuse to face. And you can't improve a reality that you keep denying or avoiding. Epictetus wisely taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This teaching lies at the very heart of Stoicism. It's not about blind positivity or passive suffering. It's about practical wisdom. If something is broken, fix it. If something cannot be fixed, adjust your relationship to it. Either way, start with what is, not what you wish it were. Think for a moment, how much time do we waste fighting reality? How often do we hope someone will change, or wish we had a different past? How frequently do we resist a diagnosis, deny the truth about a relationship, a job, or even about ourselves? Meanwhile, reality sits patiently, waiting for us to stop struggling just long enough to see it clearly. Acceptance doesn't mean liking everything that happens. It means being brutally honest about what's here now. Because only from that place of honesty can you act with wisdom and clarity. How can you navigate through life if your map is drawn in fantasy rather than truth? The Stoic begins with what is real, no matter how uncomfortable that reality may be, because from that grounded starting point, action becomes unmistakably clear. Imagine this scenario. You lose something important, a job, a friend, or a plan into which you poured your heart and soul. At this moment, you have two options. You can resist. Tell yourself, this shouldn't have happened. You can replay every moment, obsess over every detail, and search desperately for a different outcome. Or you can accept that this happened. I didn't want it. I didn't choose it. But here it is. Now what? That simple shift changes everything. It frees your energy. It gives you direction. It puts you back in motion. And this lesson doesn't only apply to big life-altering moments. It lives in the small, everyday interruptions, the missed train, the rude comment, the unexpected delay, the sudden change in plans. Every time something disrupts your flow, you face a choice. Resist or accept, react or respond, panic or pause. The more you choose acceptance, the more resilient you become, not because life gets easier, but because you stop wasting your strength, fighting battles you cannot win, draining yourself on what cannot be undone. One of the most profound and powerful forms of acceptance is self-acceptance. Because often, the hardest thing to face is ourselves, our flaws, regrets, and limitations. But the Stoic does not shy away from the mirror. He uses it. He looks with courage, not judgment. He acknowledges, this is who I am today, and I take full responsibility. This honesty is not defeat. It is the foundation for growth, strength, and peace. That's where growth truly begins, not in shame or denial, but in unfiltered raw truth. So if there's something in your life you've been resisting, a truth you've been avoiding, a change you've postponed, or a reality you keep rewriting, in your mind take this as a clear sign. Not a sign to give up, but a wake-up call. It's an invitation to step out of the comforting illusion and into the clarity of awareness. Because the moment you stop fighting what is, you open the door to building what could be. And that, above all, is real freedom. Control only what you truly can, your thoughts and your actions. In today's world, where everything clamors for your attention, where opinions fly faster than facts, and where external pressures and expectations pile up by the hour, it's easy to forget this simple, yet profound truth. The only things that are genuinely under your control are your thoughts and your actions. Nothing more, and certainly nothing less. This principle lies at the very core of Stoic teaching. Yet, it also represents its greatest challenge. Why? Because the human mind is wired to grasp, to judge, to anticipate endlessly. We tell ourselves, if I worry enough, I'll be safe. If I plan meticulously, I'll stay ahead. If I think about someone long enough, they will change. But all this is merely mental noise activity without real authority. We mistake overthinking for control, when in truth, it's just fear in a clever disguise. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he didn't say. He did not claim power over outcomes, over others, or even over the past. He claimed power over your mind and over what you choose to do with it. Take a moment to really consider that. It sounds simple, too simple, almost, but it's far from easy. Controlling your thoughts isn't about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. It's about directing them with intention and care. It's like training a muscle. When the voice of doubt surfaces, You don't waste energy arguing with it. You simply observe it without attachment. When jealousy creeps in, you don't feed it or give it space. Instead, you reframe the narrative, turning it into something useful or harmless. When anger rises, you don't explode or act impulsively. You investigate what's beneath it, quietly questioning the source. This shift from being a passive passenger in your own mind to becoming the deliberate driver is revolutionary, and the same principle applies to your actions. While you cannot control how others receive your words or intentions, you can absolutely control the intention behind what you say. You cannot control what the world throws your way, but you can control how you show up in it, your values, your standards, your discipline. That is your domain, your sphere of influence. And when you stay rooted in this internal territory, you become unshakable. This isn't just abstract philosophy. It is the very foundation of emotional maturity. Immature minds seek to control others and external circumstances before they've mastered their own inner world. But the Stoic understands that true freedom begins the moment you stop trying to rewrite the outside world and start mastering your inner landscape. Now, imagine a day, just one day, where every time something upsets you, someone ignores you, a plan falls apart, or a stranger is rude, you pause and ask yourself, what part of this is mine to control? And then, instead of reacting impulsively, you deliberately choose your response. How different would that day feel? How much lighter would your mental burden become? You redirected your thoughts. You recalibrated your actions. That's not weakness. That's command. That's what it means to live intentionally rather than reactively, with purpose rather than chaos. It also means letting go of blame. Because if your thoughts and actions are truly yours to control, then so too is your responsibility. You are not a victim of your emotions or circumstances. You are the author of your experience, the captain steering your inner ship through turbulent waters. And when you slip, when you act impulsively, when negativity takes the wheel, you don't waste energy beating yourself up. Instead, you realign. You ask yourself the crucial questions. What belief led me here? What action can I take now to course correct? This is how a Stoic moves, not in shame or self-recrimination, but with clear awareness and steady purpose. This level of self-governance is no sudden transformation. It is a gradual process, a daily practice. It won't make you immune to pain, disappointment, or hardship, but it will give you a clarity that shines through even the darkest moments. The world might still shake around you, but you won't crumble, not because you control the chaos itself, but because you control your mind within it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, scattered and reactive, emotionally pulled in every direction, come back to this grounding question. What do I control right now? If it's not your thought, let it pass. If it's not your action, let it go. The more you focus on what is truly yours, the more power you reclaim from what is not. And when you consistently live from that place, thought by thought, choice by choice, you begin to realize something liberating. You don't need to control everything to be at peace with anything. The Stoic mind filters chaos through clarity, because chaos is inevitable. Life is unpredictable, messy, and often unfair. Things break, people disappoint, plans unravel, and all of this happens without warning. But here's the truth Stoics teach. Chaos itself is not the enemy. How we filter and interpret that chaos is what determines whether it destroys us or transforms us. Most people react to life like a sponge, absorbing every insult, every fear, every failure, letting the noise stick to them until they are weighed down and suffocated. The Stoic, however, is not a sponge. He is a filter. He lets the noise pass through, holding on only to what truly matters, what aligns with his values and purpose. What gives someone this ability? It's not cold detachment or emotional suppression. It's clarity. And clarity begins with self-awareness. The Stoic mind doesn't avoid chaos. It watches it carefully, observes it, and asks the important question: is this event really as terrible as it feels? Or is it my interpretation that's fueling the fire? That simple pause creates space, distance from the immediate emotional reaction. And in that distance, wisdom grows. We live in a world that rewards speed, instant reactions, hot takes, snap judgments. But the Stoic mind resists this impulse. It slows down. It breathes deeply. It waits patiently. And in that crucial space between stimulus and response, something powerful happens. Choice. You stop being a puppet pulled by your emotions and become a person who acts from values, from clarity, from grounded intention. Clarity means you don't get dragged into every storm that passes by. Instead, you stand steady, unshaken, rooted in what you truly control, not because you don't care, but because you care deeply enough to protect your peace. You stop pouring your energy into things that only seek to consume it, draining your spirit without giving back. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. You stop answering questions that don't require your response. Because not every situation calls for your reaction, and not every moment demands an explanation from you. Take this familiar example. Someone speaks to you with disrespect. Your immediate reaction is heat, maybe anger, maybe pain. But the Stoic mind doesn't rush to act on that heat. Instead, it pauses to examine the feeling. It asks itself, is this truly about me, or is it a reflection of their own struggle, their pain, or their confusion? When you look beneath the surface, you often discover that other people's behavior reveals far more about their inner battles than about your worth or actions. Clarity provides that crucial perspective. It guides you to choose grace over ego, silence over drama, peace over pride. Yet, let's be clear, clarity isn't passive acceptance or meek submission. It doesn't mean allowing life to trample over you. Rather, it means choosing your stance intentionally and wisely. Sometimes, clarity advises you to walk away from toxic situations. Sometimes, it urges you to speak up and assert your truth. Sometimes, it encourages you to sit with discomfort rather than dulling it with distractions. But whatever clarity directs you to do, it always comes from reason, not reactivity. Developing this filter, this lens of clear vision, takes time. It's a skill to practice, not a fixed personality trait you're born with. It means constantly questioning your assumptions. It means stepping back and detaching from the stories you tell yourself about people and events. It means recognizing that your thoughts, while powerful, are not always facts. Most importantly, it means reminding yourself daily, what I feel is real, but that doesn't mean it's true. The Stoic mind uses clarity as a compass, not to escape the world or avoid challenges, but to engage with life more skillfully and intentionally. It understands that peace isn't the absence of problems or struggles. Peace is the presence of perspective. When you train your mind to slow down, to ask better questions, and to carefully choose what truly deserves your reaction, even in the midst of a storm, you will move with intention rather than panic. So, here's a reflection for you. How often are you reacting purely from emotion instead of responding with clarity? How much chaos in your life is born not from actual events, but from your interpretation of those events? And imagine, what would your life feel like if you filtered your experiences through wisdom rather than noise? When you train your mind to see clearly, chaos loses its power over you. Strength, in truth, is built through surrender to what is. This may sound contradictory at first, the idea that surrender could actually be a form of strength. After all, we are conditioned to believe that strength means resistance, pushing through, standing tall, never yielding. But the real power comes not from fighting against reality, but from embracing it. Some of the most powerful moments in life happen not when we fight, but when we stop fighting. When we stop resisting what already is and begin aligning with it. Surrender, in the Stoic sense, is not about giving up. It's not laziness, and it's certainly not defeat. Rather, it is the disciplined recognition of reality as it is. It's looking honestly at a situation and saying, "This is the truth right now," without illusions or denial. I may not like it, but I won't waste my energy pretending it isn't real. So that's not weakness, that's clarity. Under pressure, and in that clarity, you begin to respond with wisdom rather than mere reaction. Think about this for a moment. When you get caught in a strong current while swimming, thrashing and fighting against, it only drags you down faster. But if you surrender to the current, not in panic, but with calm presence, you conserve your energy, you float, you breathe. And from that stillness and awareness, you find the strength to navigate, to redirect, and ultimately to reach the shore. Life operates in much the same way. You can resist every change, every loss, every unexpected twist with all your might, or you can surrender to what is, reclaiming your power to respond rather than resist. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that much of human suffering does not arise from what happens to us, but from our refusal to accept it. We want things to be different. We replay endless scenarios of how things could have gone. We cling to should have been, as if it were a lifeline, but in truth, it only drags us deeper into despair. Seneca once wrote, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." When you surrender to what is, you move with life, flowing with its currents. When you resist, you get dragged under by its force. And surrender isn't reserved for the big, dramatic moments like loss, heartbreak, or failure. It applies just as much to the daily struggles, the small frustrations, the missed chances, the delayed plans, the unexpected detours on your path. True Stoic learns to see these not as enemies, but as invitations, each a chance to practice letting go, to release the grip of control, and to say quietly but firmly, "I will meet this moment as it is, not as I wish it to be." It takes far more courage to surrender than to struggle endlessly, because surrender requires trust, not blind optimism, but deep, reasoned trust. Trust in your own ability to adapt. Trust in the natural flow of life. Trust in the understanding that fighting the inevitable only makes it heavier and more burdensome. And in that trust, you begin to conserve something precious, your strength. Strength isn't measured by how much you can carry, but by how well you can release. It is found in your ability to stand calm, even in the face of what cannot be changed. To say with honesty and grace, "This happened, I feel it. I grieve it, and still I move forward." That is real power. That is emotional maturity. So if there is something in your life right now that you are resisting, a truth you keep avoiding, a change you deny, a reality you try to bend, ask yourself this: what would happen if I stopped resisting? Not because I agree with it, or because I am giving up, but because I want to use my energy to respond wisely, not waste it wrestling with shadows. Surrender does not mean silence or inaction. It means that your actions are guided by acceptance, not illusion. And that shift changes everything. You move from force to flow, from tension to clarity, from struggle to strength. In a world obsessed with control and power, the one who surrenders with wisdom stands out, not as weak, but as centered, grounded, and profoundly strong. Choose intentional response over reaction. Every moment in your life presents you with a fork in the road, a critical choice between two very different paths. One path is reaction, fast, automatic, and often driven by raw emotion. The other is response, slower, more deliberate, thoughtful, and intentional. While reaction might feel powerful and immediate in the heat of the moment, it frequently leads to regret, misunderstanding, or unnecessary conflict. Response, on the other hand, may appear quieter or less dramatic, but it builds character, preserves your dignity, and most importantly, it returns control back to you. The difference between reaction and response is not merely a matter of timing. It is a difference of consciousness. Reaction happens when you allow your emotions to take the wheel, letting them drive your actions without pause or thought. Response is quite the opposite. It's when you fully acknowledge your emotions but maintain control, keeping your hands firmly on the wheel. The Stoics believed the sacred space between stimulus and action is where your true freedom lives. You cannot always choose what happens to you in life, but you can always choose what happens through you. That split second, one breath, one pause, one moment of clear awareness is your opportunity to rise above your baser instincts and live intentionally according to your deepest values. Consider a simple but vivid example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your instant gut reaction might be rage, yelling, honking, boiling with frustration for minutes afterward. But to what end? The Stoic would pause, step back, and ask, is this worth my peace? Will this matter tomorrow? Does this event truly deserve my energy, or is this just my pride reacting to something beyond my control? That pause, that inner questioning, is how you break the cycle. Because most of our reactive responses are not original, they're inherited, conditioned, unquestioned reflexes absorbed from our families, our surroundings, and past wounds. But response is different. It's a conscious act of choosing, saying to yourself, this time I will choose differently. I refuse to repeat the old patterns. I will not let this moment define me. And this practice of mindful response extends far beyond minor inconveniences. Like traffic, it shapes how you handle criticism, disappointment, betrayal, even success. When someone misunderstands you, do you leap to defend yourself impulsively, or do you pause, listen, and respond with clarity and purpose? When you feel hurt, do you lash out immediately, or do you take space, reflect deeply, and communicate with maturity? These are not merely emotional habits. They are the building blocks of your character. Choosing response means recognizing where true power lies. It does not lie in domination or loud confrontation, but in composure and self-mastery. Anyone can shout, panic, or strike back impulsively, but it takes real inner strength to remain calm, to respond based on principle rather than pressure. This is the kind of strength that the world senses even in your silence. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this practice consistently. As the emperor of Rome, he wielded immense power to punish or reward with a word. Yet in his writings, he repeatedly reminded himself, do not be carried away by emotion. Let reason guide you. Be firm, but fair. He understood that leadership, as well as life itself, is not about reacting to every impulse, but mastering them. So, how do you develop this essential muscle of response? It begins by cultivating awareness, by noticing every time something stirs your emotions. Ask yourself this crucial question: is this a reaction, or is it a response? You give yourself the necessary space before replying. This pause becomes your training ground, teaching your nervous system to associate moments of discomfort not with chaos or panic, but with curiosity and thoughtful inquiry. You gradually shift your focus. You become less invested in being right at all costs and more committed to being wise and intentional. Of course, you will still feel emotions deeply. That's an essential part of being human. But the Stoic understands that emotions are messengers, not masters. They deliver important information, but you don't obey them blindly or impulsively. Instead, you listen attentively, acknowledge their presence, and then consciously choose how to act. Over time, a remarkable transformation unfolds. You become less reactive, less emotionally drained by every slight or setback. You grow more deliberate in your actions and choices, earning a new level of respect from others. People begin to notice the difference in you, not because you're louder or more forceful, but because you respond with depth and calm rather than noise and chaos. Most importantly, you feel the difference within yourself. You stop being a slave to the unpredictable storms of the world around you and become someone who responds thoughtfully, who acts with intention instead of simply reacting. So the next time life presses your buttons or stirs your emotions, pause. For a moment, ask yourself, do I want to add more chaos or more clarity to the situation? Because every time you choose intentional response over impulsive reaction, you step closer to becoming the person you are truly meant to be. True control, the Stoics taught, is self-control. When most people talk about power, they usually think of external influence, dominance, authority, the ability to change what's around them. But the Stoics had a profoundly different view. To them, the highest form of control was not about what you command outwardly, but what you master inwardly. And nothing embodies this better than self-control itself. Self-control is the invisible strength that governs your choices when no one else is watching. It is the discipline to hold your tongue when anger flares, the restraint to deny every fleeting craving, and the unwavering commitment to act with integrity, even when it costs you something. This is not about becoming cold or robotic. It is about being aligned with your values. It means refusing to let every passing emotion dictate your behavior and not allowing impulsive desires to override your principles. Epictetus put it succinctly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But this mastery doesn't arrive through force or sudden change. It comes through awareness, through consistent daily practice, through moments of failure followed by correction, and through quiet, repeated effort. You don't wake up one morning fully equipped with self-control. You build it slowly, like a muscle strengthened over time. Every time you say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you, you move toward true freedom. Not freedom from rules or discipline, but freedom from inner chaos. Consider this deeply. How often do we blame others or external circumstances for the storms raging inside us? How often do we say, "They made me angry, they broke me, the world is unfair"? Such thinking is the mindset of someone who has outsourced their power to the outside world. But the Stoic refuses to live this way. He doesn't deny that feelings exist. He simply insists on governing how he responds to those feelings. Self-control grants you space, a crucial space between thought and action, between desire and decision, between chaos and clarity. And it is within that space that you don't merely survive, you rise. You become someone others can trust. Someone you can trust deeply, because you know in your heart that you won't betray yourself in a moment of weakness. This kind of trust-self-trust- is the foundation of true strength. But self-control isn't merely about saying no to temptation or resisting momentary desires. It's equally about saying yes to what truly matters. It's the conscious choice to prioritize purpose over fleeting pleasure, progress over temporary comfort, discipline over distraction. This is the subtle difference that separates the Stoic from the average mind. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable world around him. Instead, he focuses on controlling the one thing that defines every moment of his life himself. This control may not appear dramatic or glamorous. It reveals itself in small, ordinary ways, waking up exactly when you said you would, even when the bed feels warm and inviting. Finishing the task you wanted to quit because it became too hard. holding back from proving your point in a pointless argument that only drains your energy, choosing silence over unnecessary drama, choosing rest over burnout. None of these acts shout for attention, but together, they form an invisible armor, an armor that shields your focus, protects your values, and preserves your most precious resource, time. And it is within these small, steady acts that true strength quietly emerges, not in grand gestures or displays of dominance, but in calm, consistent perseverance. You don't need to control the noise of the world when you've found the volume knob inside yourself. So if you're searching for control in your life, start here. Not with the world, not with others, but with your own thoughts, your own words, your own actions. That is where the real battle takes place. That is where your true victory lies, not because the world will become easier or less chaotic, but because you will become stronger and more resilient. And in the end, this is the fundamental lesson Stoicism teaches. Your greatest power isn't what you can control externally, but who you become when you choose to control yourself. The world will always remain unpredictable. People will disappoint you. Plans will unravel. Life will challenge your patience, your strength, and your sense of meaning time and again. But through all of this uncertainty, there's one unchanging truth. You are not here to control the chaos that surrounds you. You are here to master yourself within it. This is what Stoicism offers, not a perfect life free from hardship, but a powerful mind. A mind that knows exactly what is worth holding on to and what must be released. A mind that pauses before reacting, filters pain through the lens of clarity, refuses to surrender to fear, yet doesn't waste precious energy trying to command the uncontrollable forces of life. If there is one key takeaway to hold from this episode, it's this: your peace is not waiting for life to calm down. Your peace is waiting for you to stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You don't need to control the future in order to walk into it with strength and confidence. You only need to control your breath, your thoughts, and your next step. So step lightly, choose wisely, and carry this simple but profound principle with you every day. The more you master yourself, the less the world can shake you. If this episode helped you experience even a small shift in your thinking, share it with others, reflect on it deeply, let it echo throughout your day, and most importantly, live it.